Are you currently producing the results you expected in your business or your career? Where are you placing the majority of your focus? In today's video, we'll be going over the tools and the techniques we need to start creating the results that we expected in the first place. We'll be going over chapters 13, 14, 15, and 16 of the 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication by John Maxwell to get us there. All right, let's get into it. For each chapter, I selected one key quote that stood out to me the most. Let's start with chapter 13. Remember, it's not about you, it's all about your audience. Do what you must do to create the best experience you can for them in whatever circumstance you face. Chapter 13 is the law of the thermostat. Phenomenal communicators read the room and change the temperature when they need to. They're like a thermometer in that they can measure the temperature in the room. There's a difference, though, between good communicators and phenomenal communicators. Good communicators are like a thermometer in that they can measure the temperature in the room. They know if they have a tough crowd or a supportive crowd. Phenomenal communicators, on the other hand, are like thermostats. They can read the temperature of a room just like a thermometer, but they can do more than that. They are capable of changing the temperature as well. Phenomenal communicators can take a cold room and make it warm and inviting. And because they can read the room and change the temperature, their communication is able to connect. So how do you read the room and raise the temperature? 1, read the temperature of the room before people arrive. Consider the lighting, the proximity, how close are people, where are the seats? The sound, will people be able to hear you? The screens, if you're using screens, are they large enough for people to see? Is the print on the screens large enough for people to read? And staging, where are you going to present your information? Is everything set up for you? Do you have your water? Do you have your computer? Do you have your notes? When everything is right in the room before people arrive, the temperature increases. And the odds of a successful presentation, speech, whatever it is, increase as well. 2, know and understand temperature indicators in the room. There are certain key factors that produce a cold room straight from the beginning. Maybe it's a formal gathering. Maybe people are required to attend. Maybe they are unfamiliar with you. Maybe they're unfamiliar with the topic, the subject, and maybe you're uncomfortable. And then there are factors that produce a warm room straight from the beginning. Maybe it's an informal gathering. Maybe people want to attend. Maybe they are very familiar with you. Maybe they're incredibly familiar with the subject, the topic. And maybe you are incredibly confident. 3, watch the people in the room. You must constantly be scanning the audience while you're speaking to observe the reactions of people moment to moment. How are they reacting? How are they responding? How are they interacting with one another? You must pay very close attention to the people you're communicating to so that you know the message that you're trying to communicate is landing. Are people leaning in and showing that they're eager to learn and eager to be there? And before you start that meeting with your team or before you start that speech in front of an audience, maybe take a moment in the very beginning to just not say anything and just sit there, stand there, and just look around and observe and see what you see. You also must consider the time of day you're having this meeting or giving that speech. Maybe people are hungry, irritable, or need to use the restroom. 4, be 100% present in the room. Communicating effectively requires a high amount of focus and energy. When you speak, give everything you have. The people you're delivering your message to deserve your best. So when you're preparing to deliver that information and when you're on stage or in front of the group that you need to start presenting to, give your best. When you give your best, people know and can sense that from you, and so that builds a stronger bridge of connection. 5, interact with the people in the room. If you can get people to interact with you and others in the room, that is a way to effectively warm up a room when it's cold. When people are interacting with you, that's a signal that they're paying attention to the words that you're saying. It means you have a direct line connection and you know they're along the ride with you. 6, make the communication in the room remarkable. Make that speech special or surprising in some way. If there's at least one unforgettable experience in that whole speech of yours, that is what the audience can take with them. If you need to be spontaneous to seize the moment. You can easily turn a mistake into a memorable moment. Don't be afraid to look foolish when unexpected things happen. People know unexpected things happen, and they've experienced those very things when they've been in front of people, talking to people. And so when they see that and you spontaneously react to that, that is when you can incorporate some humor within your speech itself, further creating that connection. And 7, be flexible. There may not even be a room. Now let's get into chapter 14. Here's the quote that stood out to me the most. People who study communication know there is a direct correlation between unpredictability and impact. Chapter 14 is the law of the change-up. Everyone loves variety. How enjoyable is a theater production when nothing happens? How exciting is a football game that ends in a scoreless tie? How catchy is a song with no variation? These are situations we look to avoid, not seek out. Why? Because sameness is boring. It's forgettable. It's like having the same meals 7 days a week. Changing up how you deliver a message can make it unforgettable. Communication is like driving a car. You must change the movement of the car continually on the way to your location. As a driver, you must continually be paying attention to the road and the other drivers around you. And then as those conditions change, you must adapt and change with them. You absolutely must read your audience the way a driver reads the road. And along the way, you must change up the delivery of your message when needed. Additionally, to be a phenomenal communicator, you must speak often. How have we become great drivers? Because we drive most days, right? That means most days you need to be communicating with others. So how do we change up our communication? We can use movement and facial expressions. We can understand and practice good timing. And if you're asking yourself, how do I develop good timing? Watch comedians on stage. Comedy is all about timing. So that's a perfect example to study when it comes to timing. Next, you can practice the pause. Watch any great communicators on TED Talk or whatever it may be. There's an artful way to deliver an effective pause. And if you're not used to delivering pauses, it's going to take a little bit of time to get comfortable with them. But as you start doing them more and more, in time, they'll become easy. The pause can emphasize what you're saying. It's a very purposeful way to break up the rhythm, to underline a key word or phrase. The pause can also give your audience time to catch up with you. Maybe there's a lot of information you just threw at them. Give them some time to catch up. Communication is not meant to be an all-out sprint. It's meant to be an enjoyable experience. The pause can also bring the audience back to you. Naturally, our minds will wander, and so if they're wandering at some point in the conversation, pause and they'll wonder, well, why is nothing being said right now? And then they'll suddenly come back to where you're at. The pause also allows you to reveal your emotions. Silent moments are often great opportunities to include humor or show your heart. If something is genuinely choking you up, don't hide that. Simply pause until you can speak clearly again. Most people feel empathy in that moment and identify your passion. The pause also allows you to pivot what you're saying. Perhaps you just got done saying something incredibly heavy and serious. Pause, then transition to something lighter. The pause also allows the listeners, the audience, to hear the whisper. If for whatever moment you need to emphasize something through a whisper, take a moment to stop, pause, then deliver. It takes time to master the pause, but once you get it, you've got it. And next, you can create interaction with your audience. There's a direct correlation between unpredictability and impact. Audiences don't just want to sit there passively listening to your message. They want to be a part of the experience. Now let's get into chapter 15. Here's the quote that stood out to me the most. Living good values enables us to value others. It keeps our motives right. It allows us to do the right things. When we live good values, we have something good to give. Chapter 15 is the law of adding value. People who add value to others always put others first. They do it because it's right and also because it makes sense. In sales, if customers believe that you have their best interests at heart, then they will seek you out. As a speaker, if an audience knows it's not about you, it's about them, they will embrace your message. As a manager, if you're kind and encouraging when it comes to corrective feedback, employees will work incredibly hard to correct and make changes. And as a leader, if you build trust and make people feel important, they will help you accomplish your goals. Here are 6 ways you can get started to begin adding value to others. 1, focus on sowing, not reaping. Humans are selfish by nature, so it takes effort to change from receiving to giving. When it comes to gardening, sowing is all about planting seeds for a harvest in the future. So if every day I focus on sowing by adding value to people, then reaping a harvest will become automatic. Someday you'll get a return in your investment. 2, be aware that how you view things is how you do things. Everything we do in life is colored by our point of view. Similarly, how we view others is how we treat others. If you want to build common ground with people and accept their differences, start with being positive and seeing them in a positive light. 3, put a 10 on people's heads. What this means is assume every person is a 10 out of 10. Why? Because everyone deserves a good start. If we automatically assign them a lower number, then we might miss out on special talents and gifts that person has. Plus, you can never go wrong with treating others with dignity and respect at all times. You have absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain. 4, lift your likability level. People are reluctant to receive anything from people they don't like, so it's incredibly important to be likable as a communicator. If they don't like you, they ignore or discount your message. So how do you become more likable? Care about people and serve them. Want more for them than you want from them. 5, express disappointment when you can't add value to people. Things happen all the time, and no matter how prepared you are for a certain speech or whatever it may be, the message may not get carried over the way that you expected. And so if you ever have that realization where you just feel that your message fell flat, communicate that to your audience, communicate it to your team, communicate that to the person that you had spoken to. Say that you really wish that you could have added value, you deeply wanted to, and apologize that it didn't land the way that you expected. By doing that, they'll see your heart. And 6, run a different race. Place adding value to others higher than achieving success. Both are important, but strategically put adding value to others first before success. When the race we run is about others, then if they come out on top, it's still a win for us. Now let's get into chapter 16. Here's the quote that stood out to me the most. The more action people take, the more confident they can become. Every time they act and it gives them positive results, they taste success and know they can succeed again in the future. If they act and fail, they realize that failure isn't fatal or final, and they gain the confidence to try again. Either way, taking action is a win. Chapter 16 is the law of results. When people believe they have the ability to take action and see results, that empowers them to take action. And if no action comes as a result of communication, then the message never really leaves the room or the stage. If you want to avoid that, here are 4 actions to embrace. 1, be committed to action yourself. If you are moved to act, your audience will be moved to act as well. If you put into practice what you teach, people will trust you and be inspired by you. The credibility as you as a communicator comes from backing up the words that you use as inspiration. You can teach anything you know, but you can reproduce only who you are. 2, reframe the way people think. Most people have great intentions, but unfortunately many don't take action, which leads then to regret. A very high percentage of people have more regrets about the actions they didn't take rather than the actions that they did take. Intentionality and commitment is absolutely essential when it comes to achieving anything of value in life. This is why I don't like the response of, I'll try. It's far better to say, okay, I'll do, and then I'll come back and tell you how it went. Or if you absolutely don't want to do that thing, just say, no, I'm not going to do it. Don't say, I'll try, because typically from any time I hear, oh, I'll try, that usually means a soft no. That usually translates into, I'm not actually going to do it, but I'm just telling you I'll try, rather than right here and now telling you, no, I'm not going to do it. So when you shift your mental framework from trying to doing, it completely changes your attitude and your approach to life. Only when you are committed to doing is when you can start changing your life. 3, make taking action seem irresistible. Understanding changes minds, but only action changes lives. This is why as a communicator, your most important goal should be, let's move people to action. Most people delay action by saying they want all the information in front of them before they take the action. But if you reflect back on how you learned anything, you didn't know everything about the thing that you did that you now know. You knew a little bit and then you started doing that thing, such as riding a bike or learning how to swim. You didn't read a manual to learn how to swim. You didn't read a manual of how to ride a bike. You just started doing it, and over time you learned how to do those things. 4, use communication to build a bridge to action. Show people the value of building small wins, small victories to achieve results, to achieve confidence along a consistent road to success. And remind people it's more about the results that you get from the actions that you take rather than falling back on your feelings and making decisions based on how you feel. So I hope this has been helpful. It's been a lot of fun. This wraps up our series of the 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication by John Maxwell. I've covered a lot of the other chapters in previous videos, so if you haven't checked those out, go ahead and check those out. And I'll see you in the next video.